So before we get into XML serialization, let's start having some fun with an application. So I created a basic solution called Customer Contact and added a project to it called Demo 1. And if you don't know how to do these things, look at our the first part of the series where we went over to creating solutions and projects and just a general overview of Visual Studio itself. We're using Visual Studio 2010. You can get it for free from Microsoft's website. They have a Visual Studio 2010 Express version. Again, all this stuff was covered in earlier ones. So normally what you'd have is, depending on where you work, you'd either have a really big fat document saying, you know, we need to have, here's what we need, here's why we need it, here's all the fields we need to have, here's how we need the information to be handled, here's the different data types, all kinds of stuff. Other times you'll have an email saying, hey, Mark, we need you to create an application that collects contact information and lets us be able to see who the contacts are. All right. So in this case, all we're going to do, we're just going to go off that sentence for now, keep things very loose and easy. We're just going to create a quick contact information or contact application that will allow us to gather the first name, last name, email, and maybe some others if we get to it. Allow us to collect this information, and then we'll be able to work with that information, learn how we can store it in a meaningful way or in a custom object, learn how we can have that information stick around even after we close the application. So let's get started. And I decided I was prepping the webinar, and I was like, you know, should I build this and have, like, you see demo 1 right here. I thought about having 2 or 3 different demos with this built out in different stages, and I was like, you know what, let's just build it out. Let's have some fun. Create this because, you know, we are gearing this towards the beginner, and this might be very useful for some people to see how to actually create a quick little app. And I'm saying quick little a lot because that is the key word for today. If any of you guys saw Pee-wee Playhouse, there's always that word of the day. All right. So we need to collect some things. And if you remember, you can right-click on any control, a label, text box. These are all different controls. You can right-click and go to Properties and view the property page of that. You can also, on some controls, there's a little arrow, like here you see a little arrow, quick actions and whatnot you can do. You can also, once you have the properties part showing, you can just click on the different controls and it automatically changes based on what you have selected. So we want to change a couple of things here. We want to go ahead and change the name, what it's being displayed as, or the text. More clear than that, so it's going to be the first name. Make this one be the last name, or make this one be the email address. Okay, now I know there's probably some people, some experienced developers out there that are screaming at me going, you know, we should be looking at the data first before we do the UI. And in most cases, that's true. You want to look at the data. You want to make sure you know what data types and have your data structures and your classes all defined and put together, and then you build your UI to support your data. But we're here to have some fun today, so we're not necessarily following that right now. Hopefully, as we get further in the series, we can look at how to do things better and better. Like hopefully, if I do this right, I can show you guys how to do a little bit of refactoring. I know I introduced it last time. All right. Some people like to, when you have your label here, I just changed the text. Some people also like to go in and change the ID or the name, right? With so in this case, LBL for the control. It's just an abbreviation for a label control. Some people like to do this. I do and I don't. It depends on what I'm going to use it for. If I plan on ever changing the label or making it so the label is red if it's a required field and they didn't enter it, anything like that. If I ever plan to do anything with that label, then I will give it a name. As you remember, a name is a way that this name is how you actually access this control when you're in the code behind. How you, like with the text box, txt name dot, and then you assign the text value equal to something. We'll see that in here in just a second. So we're going to go ahead and name all of these anyways, just because it is good practice to name it, and it's also good practice to get, or it's good to get used to how the abbreviations work. So LBL, email address. Now, again, when we talked about last time, we talked about variable naming. I could have done, like with this one here, I could have changed, instead of done last name, I could have just done L name, F name, and that's fine. I'm of the personal belief that if I can spell it all out and make it as easy for me or the next person to understand exactly what this is, I'm going to do it. Other people don't. Now, text boxes, this is something you definitely want to make sure you have the name done. Notice I do TXT for text box. That's just kind of something when I was taught when I first learned. I found that it's kind of a standard. There's the last name, and we'll do this final one here, being TXT email address. All right. So as right now, if I run this thing, I'll run it. Nothing's going to happen. We're just going to see stuff. I can enter in whatever I want. Hit tab, and that's it. There's nothing I can do. I haven't written any events or anything like that. And as you remember with event-driven programming, I have to have some sort of event that we're going to fire. The application waits in response to a user's action. So here's what I want to do. We're actually going to arrange this around a little bit. And you notice when I'm dragging these things around, you see the lines that are popping up. These are, Microsoft did a good job when it comes to designing a UI, and these are nice guidelines. It also snaps my, and when I say snaps, it like automatically kind of pushes my box to fit within these lines. So if I drag it over to the right a little bit here, it kind of snaps it out to that edge and shows you the line and how it's perfectly aligned with the right edge over here. Not only am I perfectly aligned with the right edge of the first name text box here, but also with the wall and with the email address. And that's just really nice when you're designing an application to try to keep things, the same. So here for first name and last name, what I'll do is I'll just drag it down, make it the same size, and then drag it back over. You notice the pink line right there? That is showing that the text within that text box aligns with the text with the other text box. And that's important to know because you could also have your I apparently don't know how to do it right now, but you can have the bottom line up with the text, or just all kinds of screwy things. All right, so we go first name, last name, and let's add a button. And this will fire off our event. I'm in such a habit of doing right-click even this is up. So btn, and we'll call this just add person.